Welcome to Live, Life Inspired Views for Every Day. My name is Chris Meyer, and I'm a curious soul. I had a great talk with our son Andrew as he was taking his garbage can to the street on his way to teach at St. Olaf College. I was there to babysit our darling youngest grandson Ralph for the morning. Andrew and I were talking about my mom, his grandma Mirwold, who is 96 years old and yet can make us laugh. I was telling him how the other day I was with her and started telling her some of the Norwegian troll stories that I will be telling in a couple of weeks in Minot, North Dakota at the Höstfest. She loved hearing the stories and then started asking me many questions about how I was presenting them to the schools and also on the stage at the fest. She wondered what I start out saying to the children or adults as I begin the programs. Then, as I told these old tales to her, she just delighted in hearing them. Andrew and I, just moments before talking about mom, had been talking about the perils trending in our country that are taking us away from growing in expertise in the world of physical, social, and biological sciences. With all the changes happening, the loss of so much in our society that we valued, Andrew said, I don't want to live in a world where we don't appreciate and enjoy storytelling, the arts, creativity, where there is only seriousness. I told him that I believed the arts are the things that cannot be taken from us. We have the stories in our minds. We can draw with our hands. We can sing out loud or imagine an orchestra playing in our memory. We have a choice where to place our focus. We can still tell stories that make people laugh, remember, and think. We can still build the world around us with a positive attitude, observations of nature, seeing the profound in the simple, loving others, our families, friends, and humanity. We can choose to lift our feet from the muck of despair and place them on the firm ground of faith and hope that there is still good in the world, and our choices, thinking, relating, and loving, make us part of that. The ripple effect is so important now. Envision a time when you've tossed a pebble into the water, then watched the rings of waves go from it farther and farther away until you couldn't see them anymore. But there was still movement happening beyond your sight. Like the famous butterfly effect, the simple metaphor is that when a butterfly in Mexico flaps its wings, the air movement is caught up by more air movements, making higher and higher, moving higher and higher until it joins the jet stream and eventually becomes a tornado in Minnesota. What if the conversation between Andrew and me in his driveway, pulling his garbage cans to the curb, when shared with others, like on this podcast, can cause the ripple like the water or a movement of air like the butterfly wings that will be brought farther from us into more lives than we imagined. We each can be the pebble or the flap of a butterfly wing by the conversations we have every day, every week. We can lift up the arts, faith, hope. We can become the pebble, the butterfly wing. When we bring in or enjoy humor and laugh with others, the ripple can become a wave or a gale of wind. That is the goodness for our souls. I'm getting ready to present a book study for our community on the anxious generation by Jonathan Haidt. He notes that one of the great tragedies in our society is that we've lost our trust in our neighbors. It has happened gradually since the 70s. We began fearing that our children might be abducted or sexually abused if we let them play alone outside. During that time, more people got air conditioning, families shrunk, and they stayed inside to watch TV and didn't interact with the neighborhood. And then computers were added, and all this competed with any social gatherings. We didn't know people anymore and soon assumed those we didn't know probably couldn't be trusted. That is a tragedy, the erosion of our social world. But the exciting thing is that restoring our social worlds, our knowing and trust of each other, can be done without cost, with a little effort and the courage to break out of the habit of isolating ourselves. The bridge to the conversation with Andrew is that when we grow friendships, reach out to others, the arts of storytelling, music, visual mediums can thrive. The arts can be seen, they can be heard, they can be felt, but they can never be extinguished. Like a forest burned to the ground isn't really dead. The seeds that needed the heat of the fire to germinate have then found their happy place and will replenish the forest with even more lusciousness than before. When helping people discover how to take control of their healing, I often ask, what do you need to hear? As I reread this podcast, I realized I wrote what I needed to hear today. Creating these podcasts every week is the art I can do for this world. Putting my jigsaw puzzles together or playing a piece on the piano is also art, though not necessarily shared with others. It is still a ripple, a butterfly wing that does something in the universe. This week, on your bathroom mirror, write, what can I do that will be a ripple or flapping wing? Well, whatever you do, it will be art. Join me next Monday for Live Life Inspired Views for Every Day. I'm Chris Meyer, and I'm a curious soul.